She laughed at the human's armor, until he took it off and turned his back. Its metal hull reflected the pale light of a nearby star, and docking bays glimmered with ships of every shape and size. Aliens from dozens of systems moved along the wide corridors and platforms, their voices mixing into a constant hum of chatter. Bright neon signs blinked in multiple languages, advertising exotic foods, rare artifacts, and high-tech equipment. The station was alive, a hub of commerce and curiosity, a place where creatures from all corners of the galaxy came to see and be seen. Among the throng of alien travelers, one figure moved with a quiet, deliberate pace. Captain Elias Kane, a human from Earth, stepped carefully through the crowd, his bulky combat armor making soft metallic clinks with every movement. His armor was functional, designed for protection in dangerous environments, but it lacked the elegance of alien technology. It was heavy, square, and practical, a stark contrast to the flowing, sleek suits of the other species. Elias had long grown accustomed to the glances, the raised eyebrows, and the occasional chuckle that followed him wherever he went. Humans were rare here, and they were often underestimated. Elias kept his eyes forward, his expression calm. He did not respond to the murmurs or the subtle mockery. His mind was focused on the task at hand. He had come to the station on a mission, though it was as much about observation as it was about work. He had been told the station held many opportunities and even more dangers. Among them was a princess known across several star systems for her sharp tongue and love of games. Princess Lyra. Elias had heard stories, but seeing her in person would be different. He turned a corner into the main plaza, a vast open space filled with alien merchants, performers, and nobles. The air was thick with scents, spices from distant planets, oils used in alien garments, the faint tang of ozone from hovering machinery. Above the crowd, a large viewing balcony shimmered with lights, reserved for the wealthy and the influential. And there, standing at the center of it all, was Lyra. Her presence was magnetic. Even without moving, she drew attention. Her eyes scanned the plaza like a predator searching for amusement, and her expression twisted into a smile the moment they fell on Elias. The princess laughed, not quietly, but a full, ringing laugh that carried through the plaza. Her voice was light but sharp, filled with the kind of amusement that cut through confidence like a blade. "What is that?" she called out, pointing at Elias. The crowd turned to look, curiosity turning into a ripple of laughter as they noticed the human in his armor. Some nudged each other, whispering comments Elias could not understand. Others simply stared, captivated by the scene unfolding before them. Elias stopped. He did not respond. His jaw tightened slightly, but he made no move to defend himself. He had faced ridicule before, on Earth and in other systems, and he had learned that reaction often gave more power to the mocker than the one being mocked. He let the laughter wash over him, calm as a still lake, observing rather than reacting. His armor might have looked primitive, but it had saved his life more times than he could count. He knew its value. He also knew the value of patience. Lyra, however, did not seem satisfied with mere laughter. She moved forward, her steps measured, elegant, yet carrying a subtle threat. "You look funny," she said, her tone teasing but edged with authority. "Do humans really wear such heavy metal suits everywhere?" "I thought you were clever." Her words drew more laughter from the gathered crowd, some of them leaning closer to see the human's reaction. The princess clearly enjoyed the attention, and she reveled in it. Elias finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "It protects me." "That's enough." There was no anger, no challenge in his words, just a statement of fact. The crowd expected a reaction, a flinch, a stumble, but Elias remained steady, a silent demonstration that he did not require approval or admiration to exist in the moment. Lyra's smile widened, as though she had not expected such composure. "Protect you," she said, almost mockingly. "You look like a walking tank from another century." You'll never survive out here, not against the kinds of dangers this station sees every day. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity, testing him, daring him to prove himself. Do you even know how to fight without all that clunky metal? The plaza grew quiet. Aliens who had been watching began murmuring again, their curiosity piqued. Some doubted that a human could actually survive without advanced alien technology. Some were entertained by the spectacle, wondering how the human would respond. Elias could feel the weight of their expectations, both derision and fascination, but he did not falter. He had been underestimated before, and he had learned to use it as an advantage. "I do," Elias said simply. His tone was quiet, but there was an unmistakable confidence behind it. "I've survived worse than laughter." Lyra laughed again, this time a little sharper, more pointed. "Words are easy, human. Actions are what matter. If you want to prove yourself, we have an arena. A real test. Can you survive what our warriors do, or are you just words and armor?" The words drew a hush over the crowd. The arena was known across the station and even in neighboring systems. It was a place where only the most skilled and daring competed. Many had tried and failed, few had succeeded. To be invited or challenged was a mark of both attention and danger. Elias studied the princess carefully. She was not just teasing, she was testing him, measuring what he was capable of. And he understood the opportunity before him. A chance to prove himself on alien terms without relying on flashy gadgets or alien technology. "I accept," Elias said. His voice carried across the plaza, steady and confident. "When?" Lyra's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Now," she said, turning on her heel. The crowd parted as she moved toward a series of platforms leading to the arena. Aliens of all shapes and sizes followed, eager for the spectacle. Elias followed as well, moving with careful steps, armor clinking softly. He drew no unnecessary attention to himself beyond what was already happening. He did not need to. The arena would speak for him. The journey to the arena was tense but uneventful. Elias noticed the curious stares of alien merchants, the whispers behind closed doors, the quiet speculations. Many had already decided he would fail. Many were laughing silently in their minds, betting against him. Elias did not mind. In fact, he welcomed it. Misjudgment was an advantage in many battles. It gave the opponent confidence, which often led to mistakes. When they arrived, the arena opened like a cathedral of combat. Lights flashed, creating an environment that shifted constantly. Gravity changes, floating platforms, plasma hazards, and energy barriers awaited any challenger. The structure was built to challenge every skill imaginable: speed, agility, strategy, and endurance. Few had ever survived a full round, let alone the complete sequence. The air buzzed with energy, a faint hum that made Elias' ears tingle. Lyra stopped at the edge of the platform and looked down at him. "Remember," she said lightly, "this is not just about armor. This is about skill, wit, and survival. Many who wear our finest suits have failed. Do not embarrass yourself or your species." Her words were teasing, but they carried an unspoken warning. Elias simply nodded. He did not respond with bravado or anger. He had never needed words to prove himself. He had always let action speak. As the gates of the arena opened, Elias stepped forward. The crowd of aliens leaned over the railings, their excitement tangible. They had come to see a human fail, to enjoy the spectacle. They did not know that Elias had survived conditions far worse than any arena, relied on instincts and strategy honed over years, and that he understood the physics of every movement before he even made it. He took a deep breath, feeling the metal of his armor against his skin, the weight grounding him. He did not rush. He did not panic. Each step was deliberate, each motion calculated. The arena's hazards shifted, the lights flashed, the platforms moved unpredictably. And Elias moved with them, ducking, pivoting, leaping with precision that surprised more than a few alien spectators. Princess Lyra leaned closer to the railing, her laughter fading into a quiet, intrigued silence. She had expected clumsiness, panic, failure. She had not expected competence, not this calm, efficient skill. The human moved like a shadow, using momentum and gravity, predicting the movement of the environment and adapting faster than most had imagined possible. The crowd gasped and whispered. Some began murmuring in disbelief. The spectacle they had anticipated, mockery and failure, was not unfolding as expected. The human in the clunky armor was moving with purpose, intelligence, and remarkable skill. Elias was not just surviving, he was excelling. Lyra's eyes narrowed, a spark of curiosity replacing her amusement. She realized she had underestimated him, not just the armor but the human himself. Elias was calm, capable, and unshakable. And as he moved deeper into the arena, navigating hazards and outsmarting opponents, the plaza outside remained silent, the air thick with tension and anticipation. The first stage of the test was over. Elias had survived what others in far sleeker suits had failed. He stood adjusting his armor and looked at the arena's far end. He did not celebrate. He did not gloat. He simply moved forward, ready for the next challenge, as if this was what he had been waiting for all along. And far above, Lyra watched, her mind quietly racing. She had laughed at the armor. She had assumed the human was weak. But now, watching him navigate the arena with calm determination, she began to understand that armor was not what made a warrior. Skill, courage, and intelligence, that was what mattered. And perhaps, she thought with a hint of admiration, humans were far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. The arena stretched before Elias like a living machine, constantly shifting and changing. Platforms floated and rotated in zero gravity. Plasma walls ignited and retracted without warning, and invisible energy barriers created labyrinthine paths that seemed impossible to navigate. The air hummed with power, a low vibration that resonated through the floor beneath him and made every movement feel charged. Every participant who had entered before had struggled, most had failed. Some had never even made it past the first few obstacles. Elias stood at the edge of the starting platform, studying the environment calmly. The heavy armor he wore felt cumbersome, but it grounded him. He had survived worse conditions, environments designed to kill. This was just another challenge. The crowd above leaned forward, their eyes wide. Aliens of all shapes, colors, and sizes filled the balconies and platforms, whispering, laughing, and speculating. Some were betting on human failure, some were simply watching for entertainment, and a few, those who had seen humans before, watched with curiosity. Lyra, standing at her usual spot, kept her eyes fixed on him. The amusement in her gaze was still there, but it had shifted subtly into intrigue. The human had accepted the challenge with calm confidence. That alone was unusual. The arena's lights dimmed suddenly, and a soft hum of machinery echoed through the vast space. Then, without warning, the first hazard activated. A set of rotating plasma platforms shot out from the far end, spinning in erratic patterns. They emitted a faint heat haze, and a single misstep would send anyone flying into an energy barrier or worse. Most participants had panicked at the sight of such a trap, but Elias remained composed. He analyzed the rotation, noting the timing of each platform and the gaps between them. His eyes scanned for patterns as natural to him as breathing. He stepped forward. The armor clinked, but he adjusted his momentum with precision. One foot, then the other, pushing off each platform with calculated force. He used his body's center of gravity to maintain balance, leaning into the spin rather than resisting it. Several alien spectators gasped as they saw him move. They had expected a stumble, a slip, a panicked jump. But Elias moved smoothly, almost effortlessly, as though the platforms were extensions of the floor back on Earth. By the time he reached the far side, a few of the onlookers were whispering in disbelief. Some had even stopped placing bets. The human was surviving challenges that were supposed to defeat him. Lyra's expression changed, from amusement to cautious respect. She did not look away. She could not. Elias was proving silently that the human body, paired with intelligence and instinct, could overcome technology and obstacles that even highly trained alien warriors struggled with. The next challenge activated almost immediately. Gravity shifted. One moment, Elias felt light, as though he weighed nothing. The next, he was pressed against the platform as though the force of a star itself had fallen on him. Floating debris appeared, sharp metallic shards, oddly shaped containers, and small automated drones designed to block progress. The arena had no mercy for hesitation. A single miscalculation could send a competitor spinning helplessly into a plasma wall. Elias adjusted. He had trained for environments that changed constantly, for situations where the rules of physics were both a weapon and a tool. He leapt, pushed, and twisted, using the floating debris as leverage. A drone shot toward him, its small energy pulse aimed to knock him off balance. Elias did not panic. He caught it on his forearm, redirected its trajectory with a precise push, and sent it colliding harmlessly into another floating obstacle. The crowd gasped again. No human had ever moved this fluidly in such a chaotic environment. Lyra's eyes narrowed. She had seen many warriors in her life, species famed for agility, strength, and intelligence. But this human moved with something she had not anticipated. He did not rely on flashy gadgets or alien tech. He relied on calculation, adaptability, and instincts honed through experience. Each action was deliberate, each movement efficient. The more he survived, the more she realized how dangerous he truly was. The third hazard emerged as a wall of shifting energy blades, spinning slowly at first, then faster, cutting across the arena in unpredictable arcs. The timing was deceptive. One misstep would not only end the round but likely end a life. Elias approached with calm focus, timing his movements with precision. He ducked under a blade, rolled across a platform, and jumped over a spinning arm, using his armor as protection without relying on it for strength. He moved as though the blades were extensions of his environment, calculating each rotation before it even began. The crowd erupted into astonished whispers. Aliens leaned over the railings, some unconsciously holding their breath as they watched. Lyra felt a tension in her chest she did not expect. The human was alive, but he was also thriving. She had expected entertainment in his failure. Instead, she found herself captivated by his skill. Her amusement was fading, replaced by a grudging admiration. The next section of the arena was a test of endurance. A series of platforms extended over a pit filled with swirling energy currents. Small hazards floated between them: blades, energy pulses, and automated traps. The platforms moved faster now, erratically, challenging balance, timing, and quick thinking. Competitors with the fastest reflexes often failed here. Many fell in their first attempts. Elias did not falter. He analyzed each platform's movement, adjusting his stride, timing his leaps with precision. The armor clinked with each landing, but he compensated, using it as added weight to control momentum. A sudden surge of energy knocked a platform to the side. Most competitors would have fallen, thrown off by the unexpected shift. Elias jumped, grabbing a floating support beam, swinging with calculated force, and landed safely on the next platform. The crowd erupted. Cheers, gasps, and excited chatter filled the arena. Aliens who had doubted humans now watched with fascination, even respect. Lyra's eyes narrowed again, her curiosity deepening. She did not speak. She did not need to. Elia's actions were proving more than words ever could. As the final stage of the first half approached, automated drones armed with energy nets appeared. Their mission was simple: trap, immobilize, and end the competitor's progress. Most participants panicked, using brute force or complicated alien weapons that often failed. Elias approached them differently. He observed their movement patterns, predicted their attacks, and used timing to his advantage. When one drone lunged, he sidestepped, using the momentum to redirect it into another. When another attempted to trap him, he caught its energy net on the corner of a platform, snapping it with precise force. The crowd was now completely silent, watching in awe. Every action Elias took demonstrated skill, intelligence, and composure. He moved as though the arena was an extension of himself. No one had expected a human to survive this long, let alone excel. Lyra's amusement had disappeared entirely. She leaned on the railing, her gaze fixed, unable to tear her eyes away from the unfolding display. Finally, Elias reached the end of the first half. The arena paused as if giving him a moment to breathe, though he did not slow his movements. He stood, scanning the next section that would test both his combat skill and his strategic thinking. Automated opponents would appear, each designed to be lethal, each capable of outmatching a competitor relying purely on technology. Elias knew that brute force alone would not work here. He had to rely on his mind, on anticipation, on adaptability. And he welcomed it. The second half began with a sudden rush of motion. Drones, traps, and energy barriers activated simultaneously. Elias moved like water through rocks, fluid, adaptable, and precise. Each step, each leap, each pivot was calculated to conserve energy while maximizing advantage. Some drones attempted to corner him, but he read their patterns quickly, redirecting them with small pushes or using the moving platforms to his advantage. He used his armor not just for protection but as a tool, absorbing impacts, pushing against moving surfaces, and maintaining stability. Lyra watched in awe. Her assumptions about humans, their clumsy nature and reliance on simple armor, were shattering before her eyes. This human was not clumsy. This human was not weak. He was fast, smart, and unflinchingly calm. Her laughter from earlier seemed distant now, replaced by something new, a deep curiosity tinged with respect. The final obstacle was a series of floating energy rings that required perfect timing and precision to pass. Any mistake would send a competitor hurtling into a spinning blade or a high-voltage plasma barrier. Elias approached, analyzing the rotation speed, distance between rings, and energy fluctuations. With one smooth movement after another, he leapt, twisted, and adjusted his trajectory midair. His armor clinked, but he moved like a shadow, precise and silent despite its weight. He passed through the final ring, landing safely on the platform beyond. The arena fell silent. Aliens and humans alike stared, unable to believe what they had witnessed. Elias Kane had survived a challenge designed to defeat the best warriors across multiple star systems, using only his skill, intelligence, and composure. He did not celebrate. He did not shout. He simply stood, catching his breath, scanning the arena, calm and collected as if the trial had been easy. Lyra stepped forward slowly, her eyes wide. "I did not expect this," she admitted, her voice quieter than before, almost reverent. "You survived. You outsmarted everything. I thought humans were weak. I thought your armor was laughable. I underestimated you." Her words were careful, chosen, and sincere. Elias said nothing, only nodded slightly. His calm, quiet confidence spoke louder than any words. He did not need to prove himself further. He had done it with action alone. The crowd erupted into a mixture of awe and applause. Whispers of respect for humans began to spread, echoing across the station. Lyra, for the first time, felt a flicker of humility and curiosity about a species she had dismissed. And as Elias walked to the center of the arena, ready to face the next challenges that awaited him, he felt the eyes of countless spectators on him. Not with mockery or derision, but with anticipation and respect. He had proven that survival, skill, and courage mattered more than sleek armor or flashy technology. And in the process, he had begun to change the perception of humans across the galaxy. Elias Kane stood at the center of the arena, breathing evenly despite the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. The first half of the challenge had tested his agility, reflexes, and patience, and he had passed it with a calm precision that left the audience in awe. But the arena was not yet done with him. The lights dimmed again, and the air seemed to hum with a more intense energy. New hazards were activating, more complex, more dangerous, designed to test not just the body, but the mind and spirit of the competitor. Above him, the crowd leaned forward. Many whispered to each other, astonished at the human's performance so far. Aliens who had bet on his failure were now reconsidering, some nervously adjusting their wagers. The atmosphere in the arena shifted from laughter to tension and fascination. Lyra watched from her balcony, her earlier amusement replaced with intense curiosity. Her sharp eyes tracked every movement of Elias, trying to understand how a human could navigate challenges designed to overwhelm the most experienced alien warriors. The second stage of the arena opened with a sudden roar. Platforms shifted dramatically, some spinning rapidly, others rising and falling in unpredictable patterns. A series of energy barriers shot up, moving in irregular sequences that made timing critical. The arena's automated drones, programmed to be relentless, advanced toward him, their sensors scanning for any sign of weakness. This was the true test, a combination of combat, strategy, and improvisation. Many had failed here before, some in spectacular fashion. Elias assessed the situation calmly, his mind racing through possible sequences of movement, anticipating the patterns and adjusting his strategy in real time. He moved first toward a floating platform that spun slowly at first, then picked up speed. Most competitors would have hesitated, analyzing the rotation for longer than they could afford, but Elias leapt confidently, landing with precision. The clunk of his armor did not slow him. Instead, he used it as an advantage, pressing against the platform to maintain balance as it spun beneath him. A drone approached rapidly from the left, its sensors blinking red. Elias did not dodge blindly. He timed his movement, shifted his weight, and used the spinning platform to redirect the drone harmlessly into a distant wall. The crowd gasped. Aliens leaned over railings, their voices hushed with awe. Elias was moving with a rhythm that seemed impossible. Each action was deliberate, each decision calculated. His armor, heavy though it was, did not hinder him. It became part of his strategy, absorbing impacts, providing leverage, and protecting him in ways the spectators could not fully appreciate. Lyra's eyes narrowed as she studied him. She had mocked humans before, laughed at the simplicity of their armor, and underestimated their strength. But now, witnessing Elias navigate a maze of spinning platforms, energy barriers, and drones with unmatched skill, she realized she had been entirely wrong. His ability to remain calm, to adapt, and to think ahead was beyond what most species considered possible. The amusement in her eyes gave way to respect, tinged with a strange curiosity. What made this human so capable? The next obstacle appeared with almost no warning. A series of floating energy rings materialized, spinning in 3 dimensions, forming a corridor that led to the next platform. The rings emitted faint heat pulses, each pulse perfectly timed to deter careless movement. One wrong step, and Elias would be struck or sent tumbling into a spinning blade that hovered nearby. Competitors often panicked here, hesitating and misjudging the timing. Elias, however, calculated the rhythm instinctively. He leapt into the first ring, twisting midair to avoid the heat pulse, landing on a narrow platform beyond. From there, he moved through the next ring with the same precision, using momentum and timing to navigate without touching the energy fields. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Whispers of disbelief and awe rippled through the stands. Elias was not just surviving, he was moving with a grace and intelligence that defied expectations. Even the most skilled alien warriors would have struggled to match his speed, precision, and calm under pressure. The arena shifted again. Gravity began to fluctuate, alternating between extreme lightness and sudden heaviness. Floating debris appeared, some sharp, some unstable, some electrified. A small swarm of drones emerged, coordinating their movement to corner him. Many competitors would have panicked, using brute force or alien tech to try to fight them off, only to fail. Elias approached differently. He observed the drones, reading their patterns, predicting their movements, and using their energy against them. One drone lunged, and he sidestepped, using its momentum to send it crashing into a nearby barrier. Another fired a small energy pulse, which he dodged by swinging across a floating beam, landing safely beyond its reach. The crowd erupted into cheers and gasps. Aliens who had never seen a human in such a challenge were captivated. The whispers grew into excited chatter. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She had expected entertainment in his failure, but this human was not merely surviving. He was mastering the arena with intelligence, skill, and composure. She realized that laughter had no place here. Only observation and analysis mattered. The final test approached. A series of platforms suspended above a pit of swirling plasma and spinning energy blades awaited him. The platforms moved erratically, some disappearing momentarily before reappearing elsewhere. Competitors had fallen countless times at this stage, some unable to recover from a single misstep. Elias assessed the layout carefully. Timing, balance, and strategy would be crucial. He did not hesitate. With one calculated leap, he moved to the first platform, adjusting his balance midair. He landed precisely, the armor clinking softly but providing stability. The energy blades spun closer. Elias twisted, ducked, and leapt again, landing on the next platform. He adjusted to the changing gravity, using it to propel himself farther than most would expect possible. Drones attempted to corner him, but he redirected them, using their momentum and the arena's moving surfaces to his advantage. Every action demonstrated skill, intelligence, and calm. Aliens in the crowd whispered that this human was unlike any they had ever seen. Lyra felt a mix of awe and fascination. Her laughter, once sharp and mocking, had vanished entirely. The human moved with a quiet confidence that spoke of experience, training, and perhaps a determination she had not anticipated. He did not rely on technology to compensate for weakness. He relied on himself. Every move, every choice, every leap showcased the strength of a species often dismissed. She realized that she had been too quick to judge, that her amusement had blinded her to the truth. Elias reached the final platform, a narrow strip suspended above the pit. The spinning blades were dangerously close, the gravity fluctuated, and drones moved with lethal precision. He paused for a moment, taking a breath. The armor felt heavy, but it was a familiar weight. He did not need it to be faster, stronger, or smarter. It was protection, not limitation. With a calculated push, he leapt across the last gap, landing on the safety of solid ground. The arena fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted into an uproar of cheers and applause. Aliens clapped, some shouted in amazement, and whispers of respect for humans echoed throughout the space. Elias remained calm, adjusting his armor and standing tall. He did not smile. He did not boast. He had proven his skill through action, and that was enough. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes fixed on him. She had expected failure, mockery, and amusement. Instead, she had witnessed mastery, intelligence, and courage. She realized that she had misjudged humans entirely. "I underestimated you," she admitted, her voice low and sincere. "I thought your armor made you weak. I thought humans were fragile, but you've shown me something I did not expect. You've shown skill, courage, and a mind sharper than many who wear our finest technology." Elias nodded slightly. He did not respond with words of pride. His actions had already spoken. He had survived challenges designed to defeat the best warriors in the galaxy. He had demonstrated that skill, intelligence, and courage mattered far more than flashy armor or advanced gadgets. The crowd's reaction made it clear. The perception of humans had changed, at least in this arena, at least for now. Lyra studied him for a long moment. She saw not just a competitor, but a symbol of a species often underestimated. She realized that her laughter had been premature, born of assumptions and bias. Now she felt a mixture of respect, curiosity, and perhaps a touch of admiration. She had witnessed something rare, something powerful, a human who did not need to boast or show off, who let action and skill define him. Elias took a slow step forward. The arena, with all its dangers and complexities, had been conquered. He had proven his worth without relying on anything but his mind, body, and courage. The audience's cheers echoed in his ears, but he did not allow it to distract him. He had achieved what he came to do. He had shown that humans were not weak, not clumsy, not inferior. They were capable of greatness, even in a galaxy that often dismissed them. Lyra approached him, her usual sharp demeanor softened. "You've changed my mind," she said, almost whispering, though the words carried across the arena. "I laughed at your armor. I mocked your species. I was wrong. You've proven more than I could have imagined." Her eyes met his, searching for arrogance, for pride, but found none. Only calm, quiet confidence, the kind that comes from experience and mastery. Elias finally spoke, his voice steady. "I didn't need the armor to prove anything. It protects, yes, but it does not define me. What matters is skill, courage, and the choices we make." He adjusted the armor slightly, then turned toward the edge of the arena. He did not look back. His actions, his calm presence, his mastery of the challenges, they spoke louder than words ever could. The crowd erupted again, louder this time. Aliens began to murmur about humans in new ways, voices carrying respect instead of ridicule. Lyra felt a strange sense of humility, mixed with excitement. She had witnessed something remarkable, a human who had turned the expectations of an entire audience upside down, who had survived and excelled where many species had failed. And as Elias walked to the center of the arena, preparing for whatever further challenges awaited him, Lyra realized that the lesson went beyond the arena. Humans were capable of far more than she had ever imagined. They relied not on flashy technology or alien elegance, but on determination, intelligence, and courage. They adapted, they survived, they excelled. For the first time, Lyra felt something she had never expected, genuine respect for a human. She had mocked him, tested him, and challenged him, and he had responded with mastery and grace. The human's actions had spoken louder than her words, louder than laughter, louder than the expectations of an entire galaxy. Elias adjusted his armor one last time, his calm gaze sweeping across the arena, taking in the crowd, the hazards, and the princess. He had proven his skill, his courage, and his intelligence. And in doing so, he had begun to change the way humans were seen across the stars. The arena was silent now, the echoes of the previous challenges still vibrating in the air. Aliens and humans alike watched, some unable to believe what they had seen. Elias Kane stood at the center, calm and unshaken, his armor dented in places from the minor collisions and impacts of the arena. He had passed the most dangerous obstacles with intelligence, skill, and patience. His performance had not only astonished the audience, it had challenged everything they thought they knew about humans. Many had laughed at him earlier, but now there was only awe, respect, and quiet admiration. Princess Lyra, standing above him on the observation balcony, felt a strange mix of emotions. She had laughed at the human's armor, mocked its simplicity, and assumed he would fail. Yet now, after seeing him navigate a gauntlet that would have overwhelmed even elite alien warriors, she understood that she had been wrong. The human did not rely on technology, flashy gadgets, or alien weapons to survive. He relied on his mind, his body, and his courage. Each movement had been deliberate, calculated, and executed with precision that few species could match. Ilia's gaze swept across the arena, taking in the crowd, the spinning hazards, and the princess above. He did not need to shout, gesture, or draw attention to himself. He had proven his skill through action, and that was more powerful than any words could convey. He adjusted the armor slightly, feeling its familiar weight, but he knew that soon it would be unnecessary. The final demonstration was not about survival alone. It was about respect, perception, and the quiet impact of showing true capability. A soft chime echoed through the arena, signaling the conclusion of the official challenges. The automated gates that had unleashed hazards, drones, and shifting platforms began to retract. The arena's energy fields dimmed, the spinning blades slowed, and gravity stabilized. For the first time, the space felt calm, almost serene, as though it recognized that its purpose had been fulfilled. Ilias had completed the trials, survived every hazard, and in doing so, shown the audience something they had not expected. The spectators leaned forward, some whispering, some clapping, and some simply staring in disbelief. Aliens who had once doubted humans now looked upon Ilias with admiration. They had expected failure, and instead they had witnessed mastery. The human had done what few believed possible, using only intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Lyra's expression softened, her sharp gaze now reflecting a mix of respect and curiosity. She had underestimated humans, dismissed their potential, and allowed her laughter to blind her judgment. But Ilias had not responded with anger or arrogance. He had responded with calm skill, letting action speak louder than words. In doing so, he had transformed the perception of humans across the galaxy, at least for those present in this arena. Ilias moved deliberately toward the center of the arena, his posture calm and dignified. He had no need to show off or exaggerate his accomplishments. The results were evident. The armor, once a source of mockery, had served its purpose, but it was not the defining factor. His strength, intelligence, and courage had been the true tools of his success. The spectators watched as he stopped, the hum of the arena fading into silence, leaving only the soft clinks of his armor as he shifted slightly. Then, with a calm and deliberate motion, Ilias began to remove the armor. He unclasped the heavy shoulder plates first, then the chest piece, revealing the human body underneath. It was lean, strong, and scarred from countless battles, each mark a testament to experience and resilience. His arms, muscles defined and steady, reflected years of training and survival. The crowd held its breath, the murmurs quieting as they realized that the strength had never been in the armor. It had been within the human himself all along. Lyra's eyes widened. The amusement that had once filled her gaze was gone. She now saw a human not as weak or primitive, but as capable, disciplined, and formidable. Her laughter had been premature, a mistake she could not deny. She had judged a species by its armor, by its appearance, and in doing so had overlooked the qualities that truly mattered. Ilia's calm removal of the armor was a quiet but powerful statement. It said without words that true strength did not rely on technology or appearance. It relied on skill, courage, and self-confidence. The crowd erupted into applause, some of it hesitant at first, but growing louder as the reality sank in. Aliens who had once mocked the human now bowed slightly in respect. Humans present in the audience cheered quietly, proud of the demonstration of capability. The message was clear. Humans were not weak, they were not clumsy, and they were not inferior. They were adaptable, intelligent, and courageous, a species to be respected. Lyra descended the balcony, moving toward the arena floor. Her usual regal poise remained, but there was a new humility in her steps. She stopped a few meters from Ilias, looking him directly in the eyes. "I laughed at you," she admitted, her voice quiet but sincere. "I assumed you were weak, that your armor would fail, and that you would embarrass yourself. I was wrong. You've shown me what humans are truly capable of. You've earned respect, not from me alone, but from everyone here." Elias nodded slightly, his calm demeanor unshaken. He did not need to respond with words of pride. His actions had already spoken. He had survived and excelled in the arena, proven the value of human skill, and shown that courage and intelligence mattered more than appearances or technology. Lyra's acknowledgement was enough. It was not flattery. It was recognition of a truth she had only just realized. The arena's energy systems powered down, the hazards and drones vanishing as though acknowledging Elias' achievement. The platform stabilized, and the space felt calm, almost reverent. Spectators began to disperse slowly, discussing what they had witnessed. The whispers were no longer of doubt or ridicule, but of respect, fascination, and admiration. Humans had always been underestimated in this galaxy, but Elias Kane had changed that perception in a single demonstration of skill and courage. Lyra stepped closer. "I underestimated your species," she said, her eyes searching his for arrogance, for pride. "I mocked you. I assumed you were weak. But I see now that humans rely not on armor or technology alone, but on courage, intelligence, and adaptability. You have shown me something remarkable." Her tone was sincere, free of teasing or mockery. She had learned a lesson that day, and it was one she would not forget. Elias met her gaze evenly. "I did not need to prove anything," he said. "The armor protects, yes, but it does not define me. Skill, courage, and determination define who we are. That is true for humans, and for anyone who is willing to rely on themselves." His voice was calm, carrying an authority that did not demand recognition but naturally commanded it. The crowd watched in silence, absorbing the exchange. Aliens who had come to see spectacle and amusement had instead witnessed a lesson in humility and respect. Humans had often been underestimated, dismissed as primitive or weak, but Elias had demonstrated qualities that transcended species: intelligence, courage, patience, and adaptability. The applause began again, louder this time, rising to a crescendo that echoed through the arena. Lyra studied him for a long moment. She had expected entertainment in his failure. Instead, she had found mastery and dignity. Her laughter had been replaced by respect, her assumptions by understanding. She realized that Elias had not just survived the arena, he had changed perceptions. He had shown that humans were capable, resilient, and formidable, even without relying on advanced alien technology or sleek designs. Elias took a slow step forward, moving toward the exit of the arena. He did not rush, but neither did he hesitate. Each movement was deliberate, confident, and calm. The spectators followed his progress with fascination. Aliens who had once doubted humans now whispered among themselves, acknowledging the truth they had witnessed. Humans were not weak. Humans were not clumsy. Humans were capable of achieving remarkable things through skill, courage, and determination. Lyra followed him closely, walking beside the arena floor. "You've proven more than I expected," she said softly. "Not just your skill, but your courage, your composure, your intelligence. You have shown that humans are more than the sum of their armor or appearance. You've earned respect here." Her voice carried a rare sincerity, free of arrogance or pretense. She had learned a lesson she would not forget. Elias glanced at her briefly, then turned his attention back to the crowd. He did not need further acknowledgement. The respect was evident in their expressions, in their gestures, and in the quiet admiration that had replaced laughter. He had accomplished more than survival. He had demonstrated a truth that few had ever understood. Humans were strong, intelligent, and courageous, not because of their technology, but because of their will and skill. The spectators began to applaud again, some standing, some cheering, and some simply watching in quiet awe. Elias adjusted his armor one last time, then moved to the edge of the arena and turned his back to Lyra and the crowd. It was a simple gesture, but it carried weight. He did not need approval, recognition, or praise. His actions had already spoken. The calm confidence in his posture, the strength in his stance, and the clarity in his eyes said more than words ever could. Lyra watched him silently. She had expected laughter, mockery, and entertainment, but she had found something far more valuable: understanding and respect. Elias had demonstrated that humans were capable of greatness, that they relied on courage, intelligence, and adaptability rather than technology alone. She had learned a lesson she would carry with her, one that would shape her view of humans forever. The arena grew quiet as Elias moved toward the exit. The spectators began to disperse slowly, still discussing the human who had changed their perceptions in a single demonstration. Whispers of respect and admiration spread through the station, reaching ears that had previously dismissed humans. Elias had not only survived the arena, he had reshaped expectations, proving that courage, skill, and intelligence mattered more than appearances or gadgets. And as he stepped out of the arena, his back to the princess and the crowd, Elias Kane carried with him a quiet victory. It was not a victory of ego or pride, but of truth. Humans were capable, intelligent, and courageous. They had been underestimated for too long, and now, for those who had witnessed his skill, the perception had changed forever. Lyra remained for a moment, watching him leave. She had laughed at the armor, mocked the human, and expected failure. But she had been proven wrong. She had witnessed skill, courage, and intelligence in its purest form, and she could not deny it. Elias Kane had shown her, and the galaxy, a truth that would not be forgotten. Humans were formidable, not because of their tools, but because of who they were. The station was alive with discussion and speculation, whispers of respect for humans echoing through its corridors. Elias' performance had left an impression that would last for generations, a reminder that skill, courage, and intelligence were universal values that transcended species, technology, and appearance. And somewhere above, Lyra quietly acknowledged that she had learned one of the most important lessons of her life: never underestimate a human. She laughed at the human's armor until he took it off and turned his back.